Okay. Hey, everybody. It's PJ and Christine with the TLRD for Love of Dog podcast. Just quick recap weekly. I thought we might start with where your donation goes. And a lot of people wonder why it takes so much money to run a dog rescue, because it does. And we have a lean team. Some people have bigger teams. We have a very, very, very lean team. But mostly, I can say for sure, it's vet care. We not only do we rescue a lot of medical dogs, but we have a lot of seniors, a lot of dogs that have ongoing medical issues. Those are the dogs that, like Christine said in other podcast recaps, that others that don't take. So we take them, but it costs more. And also, just to throw in a little bit of inflation thing, is that we used to always tell everybody it costs us about $670 to save a dog. That's probably closer to like $1,100 now, or maybe a little over, because the costs have gone up so much. And there are a lot of vets that we lost over the pandemic. They just never came back to do rescue. So vet care is a huge one. That's probably 75% of it. Then we have boarding, supplies. Boarding, we try not to use. We're really ratcheted down. We used to have a lot of dogs in boarding. We're down to 3, I think it is now. But, and then supplies. The supplies can be, probiotics, fish oil, what have you. So I know, Christine, you manage that side of it. So do you want to talk a little bit more in detail there?
One thing I think people don't realize is a lot of times when dogs come out of the shelter, obviously we try to get their medical history prior to them coming into our rescue. And a lot of times the shelters just can't assess the dogs the way that they need to be assessed. So what might be a healthy dog what we think is a healthy dog or a semi-healthy dog when we get it, once it gets to our vet, we find things that pop up all the time that the shelter didn't make us aware of. Something that we might think may be kind of a low-cost dog to rescue turns out to be a very expensive dog. Quick example, we just had a dog, Coconut, who ended up needing a tail amputation because she had happy tail. Obviously, that wasn't something that the shelter knew or that we expected when we got her, but that ended up being thousands of dollars to get her tail docked, to keep her from injuring herself and getting infected. Another thing is transportation costs. Even though we're not pulling a lot of dogs right now, when we do have dogs that need to go to the vet, adoption events, and the fosters can't take them if we don't have volunteers, we do have to pay transport. And as everybody knows, gas is crazy expensive right now. And so that the transporters have to not only earn money for their time, but they also need to fill up their gas tank. So transport is also a very expensive thing, round trip. And sometimes transporters will charge to wait at a vet, while a dog's getting examined or whatever the case may be while they're at the vet. So costs add up very quickly.
Definitely. And other people will say, why don't you have volunteers? We have tried so hard to get people to volunteer to transport. It's difficult. I get it. Most people work, right? And usually the vet trips are during the day, or even like when we pull a dog is during the day. It's not like after hours or anything. And back to the vet care, I like to call it the unexpected vet venture. Like Christine said, like we think, oh, this dog's going to be easy peasy, no problem, and all of a sudden you have a $5,000 vet bill that you had not planned on, didn't have really the money for. Our community is really great. They will often, step up to the challenge, but we got to ask them, and that's just another time we have to ask for money, which is very stressful and hard to do. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things that go into it, and we do, we try not to spare any expense. We've had to cut back a lot, but, all of our foster dogs get probiotics and fish oil and like these things, just honestly basic things that you want to keep the dogs healthy, because we want them to be healthy. We want them to get adopted. We don't want to give somebody else a problem, and nor would we. If there was something, even a surprise, we normally cover it depending on, what it is. But yeah, it's just that vet care is that unexpected vet venture is, or even the expected vet venture is often sometimes really expensive. And like Christine said, with the Coconut's tail, I was really surprised because, again, pre-pandemic, that would have cost like, less than like $500 to do, but not anymore. And that's, unfortunately, we can't live without vets, right? That's a main thing for us. So
And we can't run a tab at the vet either. We have to pay when the dog leaves the vet for the day. We have to pay that bill before the dog can leave. So it's not like we can make payments or anything like that. So we're constantly scrambling to find the funds just to be able to get the dog out of the vet to the foster.
yeah, and that's one thing I tell people, because we don't care, because the money is almost, like I said, almost always for the vet. Some people, like, just want, they're not sure, where the money's going to go, whatever. If you want to donate directly to the vet, that's fine with us. We could probably even run a credit tab there, meaning like if you want to donate, even if we don't have a bill right now, trust me, in a day or two, we will have a vet bill that we will need to pay. So that's really where your donation goes. We have a very, very small administrative cost. It's like 2%. Everything else is really program driven. So all of the money is used to get dogs ready for adoption, or to take them to adoption, or to, all of those things. We don't really spend a lot of money other than our programs, which is, like I said, spay and neuter, or vetting, or dog adoption. All those things are just what we use our donations for. Okay, so we thought we're going to change courses here, really big change.
Drastically.
Drastically, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. So dog parks, they are a controversial topic. I can tell you, but I hate dog parks. And it's mostly the people, not the dogs, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people who know their dog really shouldn't be in a dog park. Maybe they don't get along with dogs, all the time. And that's usually the person, I'm sorry, guys, it's usually a guy that's over there on their phone with their back turned to their dog. And their dog is like, ripping another dog apart, right? And then, then that whole thing happens. And even if that doesn't happen, there's just a lot of excitement in a dog park. And there has to be somebody there who could kind of like referee, kind of calm them down a little bit, just like you would in a basketball game, you get heated basketball players, you need somebody to kind of intervene and like get them to set part and then start the game over. And so there's nothing wrong about getting your dog socialized. I mean, I totally like that part of it. But the other thing is, I know that dog parks are like a little petri dish of germs. And so your dog can get things like Giardia, Coccidia, and worms and other things. And many of those parasites are zoological, which means that they can be transferred to humans. So no fun with that. So again, lots of excitement. I think if you want to socialize your dogs and you have friends who have, you have 2 or 3 friends that have dogs that are very friendly, whatever, get them together in a yard, or, I know the city would hate me to say this, but get them in a tennis court when somebody isn't there. They can play at their heart's content. The other dogs can't get in, and they can't get out. So I'm sure you have some perspective on that, because I know with Malibu, like you probably have never used dog parks.
No, we've never used dog parks. What we have used dog parks for is in training her. When we first got her, our trainer had us stand outside of dog parks and just use them for, to help her be comfortable around dogs coming in and out. But as far as, I could stand there and watch. No one was looking at their dog. They were on their phones. They were talking to each other. And there's always those signs, those cues that come up before an altercation happens. And if no one's watching their dog, then obviously things are going to get out of control very quickly. The dogs are going to get hurt. People are going to get hurt. And I know that when I'm interviewing people and we go over the dog park question, people are like, well, how am I going to socialize my dog? And like PJ mentioned, there's so many different ways. Just walking your dog with another dog is great socialization. They don't need to be wrestling. They don't even need to be touching each other to be socializing. They can be walking together, laying in a park together, like she said, using a tennis court. I know that, I forget, I think it was in Laguna Niguel, but there used to be a single dog park next to the main dog park. So there was like one single area that, say people had an apartment or didn't have a yard and they wanted their dog to run around in an enclosed area. you could go and spend a half hour of just your dog being in that one little area. And I used to take my dog there sometimes with Lloyd, her buddy that she used to hang out with, and I would muzzle Malibu because she's reactive. And I didn't want anybody getting hurt, but that was a great avenue for us to have an open space with grass and trees, to let them just be together and not have to worry about other dogs. So I know those single dog parks aren't really common, but there are areas to find, find a friend that has a yard. Ask if you can just come over with a dog and their friend and just let them play there. So there's a lot of other avenues. You don't have to use a dog park.
And you shouldn't.
Yeah, and you shouldn't.
I know I'm always on my soapbox when I talk about dog parks, just because I've seen so many bad things. And it's funny, people are in two varieties. Either they like never had a problem at the dog park, or like, oh yeah, either they picked up a parasite or their dog got ripped apart, had like you know, tubes in it, drain for drainage. So I think that's the thing you just really need to be careful of. I agree. The single dog parks, I wish every city would have them. It's funny, in New York City, they have a lot more of those, which is kind of cool. Obviously we're very far from New York City, but, and I tell people, especially when they're adopting a power breed, and it's not because I think the power breeds are any more, apt to like get into a fight or whatever. It's just that if, a pit bull, and a Labrador get into it, and even if it was a Labrador that started it, who's going to get blamed? It's the whole profiling thing. They're going to go after the pity. And, and then that invites a whole other host of things like animal control is involved. And they're going to want somebody invariably gets bit when they're trying to pull dogs apart. Cause it's the stupidest thing to do is to put your hands where the mouths are, but everybody does that. Nobody pulls it by the tail or the feet. And so a human gets bit, and then animal control is involved. Quarantine happens. If you're here in Orange County, I'll tell you, they immediately want to say your dog is potentially dangerous, and that comes with a whole host of other things where you need $1 million of insurance. You always have to muzzle your dog. I don't like dog parks. I don't think they're worth it, because, it can be devastating both to you and your dog. So I think yeah. So I'll stay on my soapbox about that forever because, yeah, I will. Okay, we're going to wrap it up really soon. And I was going to start with this and I didn't. But if you've been tuning in, I hope you have. Miss Charlotte is still looking for a foster. She's kind of in flux right now. The 7th has passed. That was yesterday. That was her deadline. We're scrambling right now, but we really, 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 really hope that we can find a committed to foster for at least several months so that she can, not have to go back to boarding. We talked about this last time. She was pretty shut. The boarding places are fine. They're nice. They're well cared for, but it's just not like being in a home. And, she didn't even realize she was allowed to sleep in the home or eat in the home, the last time.
Yeah,
So
she wouldn't. Yeah, it took her a
yeah.
while to eat. She had to feed her out on the patio and then slowly move it inside to let her know that it's okay to eat inside.
Yeah. And that's heartbreaking. And again, I've said this before, a dog that's been in a home, it's always harder for them, to go to boarding. Again, not that the boarding place is bad. We would never use a bad place. But it's just not like being in a home. And the longer the dog is in a home, the more chance it's going to have to be adopted. And she is a great dog. I always hate saying, but she needs to be the only dog in the home because it sounds like a bad thing. But there's, look, there's a lot of people out there that like to live alone, right? Because they don't want a roommate because that's annoying or whatever. So it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with her. She just prefers the company of humans and cats. And that's, that's her. That's her jam. So anyway, please foster Charlotte, or if you can't foster them, please tell everybody, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, people in church, anybody that you can think about asking people on the street, just, well, hey, would you like to foster a dog? Just ask everybody and please send them to thelittlereddog.org and they can fill out a foster application there.
And don't forget, fostering is free. We cover all the costs, the food, the supplies, any medical. I did have somebody contact us on Instagram recently and say they couldn't afford to foster, and I had to remind her,
But you can.
everything is covered. So unfortunately, we didn't get an application out of it, but just remember, even if you think you can't afford it, there's no cost to you. You just need to provide
Right.
the home, the routine, the love, and just help her get set up to go into her forever home.
Right. And to borrow Sam's term, like if you're foster curious, even just fill out the application.
Yes.
There's no obligation. You can talk to us. You can meet her. If for some reason, if you meet her and you decide that's not it, no one's going to stone you or make you feel bad. Yes, we'll be a little disappointed, but we need it to be right for you. And the other thing I think that people think is that you're kind of an indentured servant, which you're not. If you have a vacation or a work trip or whatever, you just need to let us know in advance, and we can plan for that, and we can either get a temp foster or a short boarding situation for those times. So again, it's pretty easy. It's just to love the dog, feed the dog, walk the dog. That's really it. I mean, yes, there's more to it, but it does save lives, and not just for Charlotte. We have other dogs in boarding and other dogs we would like to save, and we can only do that with fosters. Well, we're going to try to come back over the next couple of weeks and have a couple of surprises for you. Just try to give you more information, get a peek behind the curtain of how we run the rescue, and you can either enjoy it or run screaming. I don't know which one is going to be, but we'll find out.
And if you guys have any topics that you would want us to expand on or that you want us to talk about, feel free to email us at info@thelittlereddog.org. Maybe just put podcast in the subject line and shoot us any ideas, or if there's questions or something you're confused about or just want clarification on, or just that you think would be a fun topic. We would love to review it and hopefully get it on the show.
Awesome. And we'll even call you by name if you want us to.
Yes.
So. All right, guys, that's it for us today. Have a great weekend and take care. Bye.
Bye.